Like I know there's a trend. I know like when FNAF came out.
Okay, wait. Maybe if this is a whole thing, maybe we should start recording and then you can explain it.
Wait,
No,
It's not recording.
we
Oh,
are
we are
recording.
recording,
I mean,
but-
start the episode.
oh.
Okay. Is this it? Do we put this in?
We need
Is
like
this
an
it?
intro of some kind.
No.
Oh, ew.
Do we acknowledge that the episode has started, or do we just start talking?
Can we like make an
Think we
intro
do.
like beforehand?
No, there's gonna be like a
Afterhand.
visual intro. I'm gonna do like a thing, but we need to acknowledge that the episode has started.
Yeah, we have right now.
Yeah, they have to start.
Oh, okay.
Is that not good enough for you?
That's perfect.
No, that's fine. I believe this.
That
This
sounds
is what
right.
this works.
Yeah, whatever. Like, who wants a fucking long ass intro? See, we're already making a big fucking thing. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
My bad.
that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. So, well, so basically, my point was, it's just interesting that, like, Among Us got popular, and then all of these other fucking bullshit games just came out of nowhere. And bullshit not as an insult, like, how do I put this?
Go on.
Did you hear about Dale and Dawson? Because like everyone was playing that, but I'm sure you just like it went
No.
completely under the radar.
I have no idea what that is.
It is. It's just another Among Us clone, except you
Oh.
do office work, like you file faxes and you like feed the cat that's like in the break room and shit like that.
There's a
There are
whole
people
lot.
that are
Mhm.
slacking that like can do whatever the fuck they want, and then the slack meter goes
Mhm.
up versus like the progress meter.
That sounds interesting, actually.
It was really popular, but you know these games are just getting like shot out and like they're thrown to the wayside. I haven't played it since like October, start of October, but I had like 10 hours in it. And I just think it's interesting that I feel like it might be a response to live service games. You know, like I understand that when FNAF came out, it was you know, like a bunch of fucking
Spawned a whole
clones.
bunch of bullshit. Yeah.
A bunch of clones of FNAF came out. I get that, but these are party games, and I feel like that's like different. You know, like people
It
want
is
to play
different
shit.
because all party
shit with
games are called party games because of Mario Party. Therefore,
Hmm.
all party games are derived from Mario Party.
Yeah,
But-
they're all just like.
but-
Oh, it's all
really
Nintendo.
Oh,
But
here's the
more to,
Nintendo
like,
guy.
You were literally wearing a Pikmin shirt. So my point is
And?
more that like, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's actually quite good.
Mhm.
You know, there's a big difference between like Fortnite popping off and that's Epic Games, the multi-million-dollar company,
Mhm.
or Among Us popping off, and yeah, they have microtransactions, and you could consider them live service, but they were a team of 4 people or whatever it was when they started.
Hmm.
So it's like it's a big difference.
It's not.
And
It-
I don't think there's anything wrong with these like little games that like a lot of people would look at them and be like, oh, they're kind of junk foody, and I'm like, yeah, but they're less junk
They're fun.
foody than some of the other garbage that we're playing right now.
Yeah. Like live service is junk food. I accept that.
Yeah.
But yeah, live service is very just like slob. It can be very just slob and like.
Mhm.
I mean, like, I feel like Concord is a perfect example of like, yeah, we made this thing to cash in on a trend, not because we wanted to. Because if we really wanted to make this thing, it would have lasted more than a week.
Okay.
I completely forgot about that garbage.
Okay,
That's what
but
I'm
the thing with
talking
Concord, that I disagree with you on, but I understand what you're saying, is that game was worked on for like 8 years.
Well, sure. No, I get that, but like, it doesn't mean if they were passionate enough about it that this was the game they really wanted to make, like it wouldn't have died immediately. I know the devs don't really get
Mhm.
that choice, but like, you know,
Mhm.
there would have been more of a stink about it instead of everybody laughing and being like, haha, that's funny.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I don't know. Even when you said there that Among Us is live service, I just don't see it that way. I mean, they just
Hello?
It's not. It kind of is, but
It's-
it kind of isn't.
like,
It's
Well,
live service
not
in the same
really.
way that
That's
like
cosmetics.
Minecraft is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a more accurate way to describe it. I don't know. It's interesting. Like, so Counter Strike. I don't know. This is completely like kind of sort of a pivot. But
Okay,
I feel
we'll
like
talk about.
but it's the same thing. It's sort of thing where it's like the same. Where's the line for what's live service and what's like this?
Well, I guess I'm just
nice-
talking about
Live
like
service?
a game that doesn't end. Like I feel
Mhm.
like a good game should end. I feel that way about a lot of things. You know, like when a series goes on for just ever and you're like, Jesus, just end already.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, stuff like movies or shows.
Yeah. Like I feel like a good game knows when it's like, all right, we're done. Let's move on to the next one.
Sure, but it kind of depends because if you go to like the live service model, you don't have that. But like something like Among Us, which is like quote unquote live service, it doesn't even like it depends on. I guess if like they have a story, no.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Like
I
if the
guess that
story
is the
a
line.
very, very big element of the game, then
Yeah.
because if it's just like a haha silly like Mario Party esque game, like Mario Party doesn't have a a story really.
No, that's fine. Like I don't need an Among Us 2. I'm good with more Among Us updates.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
But,
just
like-
maps. It's free.
I think it depends.
had-
Like I think Overwatch, if Overwatch had like an actual Overwatch 2, like it was actually a sequel,
Yeah.
then I think I'd be super down for it.
Hmm.
Oh, totally.
That's
feel like
obviously
that-
not what happened, but
Yeah, it's definitely they were just like they tried to build an Overwatch 2 and then they're just like, oh fuck it, we just build whatever we can with the scraps we have left.
you know, whenever we have the live service conversation, I always come back to Splatoon because I feel like Splatoon is like the
Uh-huh.
golden example from my perspective of just like, you know, the game lasts a couple years and its multiplayer updates are paid for by the single player content and DLC.
Yeah.
But the DLC is always
Sure.
substantial. Like for Splatoon 2 and 3, I don't remember Splatoon 1 had DLC. I don't think it did. But for Splatoon 2 and 3, you know, the DLC was like a second campaign for like $20. To me, that's awesome. I'm absolutely willing to pay for that, and that funds updates for the multiplayer that I don't play.
Totally, I think that is good.
I think Overwatch could have absolutely benefited from doing the exact same thing because these characters are awesome and the story could be so interesting.
Oh my god, bro! Like especially with like the leaks that came out like more recently, like a month ago, I think about this one. I think it was like an executive or like a developer that like left like years ago, and like now he's talking about it. Where like you see that leak where it was like Blizzard was in talks with Netflix about a show in like 2018, like show like that where they just like didn't do it because I believe it was, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was Netflix or Blizzard. I think it was Netflix like poached an executive from Blizzard, and then Blizzard was pissed. So they're just like, no.
Right. Well, so in the alternate parallel universe where that show was made, we would have had a competitor to Arcane, and then we could have had like there could have been this influx of video game related TV shows, like animated.
It could have been good.
It would have been awesome. But Blizzard has to
Yeah.
suck as they typically do. Common
There-
Blizzard
there's-
L.
Yeah, they've been
real
getting worse. I mean,
Blizzard-
they've been getting worse for it as well. They used to be.
Yeah, over the past few years, they just have like such a high horse that they're just like, oh, we're like the best company. We made StarCraft, we made World of Warcraft, and now we do whatever we want.
Well, that's basically like I know Overwatch stood up on its own, but that's like how the marketing for Overwatch went. Is just like we are Blizzard and we are making a new game. Buy it, and everyone
Yeah,
was like,
pretty much.
absolutely.
Well, I
Was
think,
that-
and so when Game Awards had the category for best community support, I think it really got like cogs turning in my head for, everyone that's doing live service the best has a lot of communication with their community, like No Man's Sky, you know, that's probably counts as live
Mhm.
service. Among Us, if we're counting it, like, you know, that has a lot of communication with everyone in their community, and I feel like we don't have an issue with either of those games, you know, like I think, and they probably fall into that same model that you just don't like.
The model that I don't like.
Yeah, well, like
Like a
live
live
service
service?
in general, just the topic of live service, but because they communicate, I think it's the communication between them and like the player base that's why those aren't like things you get mad at. Like-
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think it also you can always read the intentions a developer has. So like, there's a lot of earlier 2000s to like early 2010s shooters and like multiplayer games where
Oh my god, fuck
you
yeah.
can just tell, you know, like everybody behind the scenes is having so much fun putting this together. Like Bungie is just like having a
classic
blast
Halo
making
Reach.
those. I mean, like, there's a lot of crunch and horror stories behind Halo, but like, there's also a bunch of developer interviews of like, yeah, development was a nightmare, but also like, holy shit, did we just love being there? And and you could tell when you're playing Halo Reach and like you read a one of those updates that pops up from Bungie of like, you know, here's what we've been working on, and here's Griff Ball created by the community. You know,
Oh my god, I fucking love that.
shit like that is just so awesome, and a lot of that is just gone. I feel like some of it is weirdly enough, not to give praise to my mortal enemy, but like some of it's still kind of alive in Riot, which is a super weird place for that to be.
I think it's big and right just because I feel like that's like a culture thing. Like I feel like the culture for most game companies are just like especially if you look at like the Blizzard and like the Activision side of stuff. Like Activision specifically is like they'll just like build this culture of like we need to get this game out now for money, and like they just crunch you really hard, and they give like no room for the the developers to have like any breathing or influence on the game. Then just like it's very rigid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
so that just like loses all the soul.
Yeah. Well, so it's all in trusting the creatives. And the best games are when the executives either weren't paying attention or let the creatives do what they wanted. And that always creates the best video games. It's not every game that happens because of that isn't always a masterpiece, but you can't always expect a masterpiece ever. That's not how that works. But I can't think of, you know, it's not common that the executives make all the decisions and the game comes out amazing.
That's all, honestly, the more influence the executive has, the worse the game comes out.
That's typically how it is.
I also think it's funny to parallel that I think the exact opposite happens with movies. I think when what was it called? I don't know, I think people are trusting directors a lot, and I think it's leading to like a lot of things just flopping. Like what was the more popular example? Multiverse of Madness as well, like, you know, like, I think that was entirely.
I love that movie.
I love that. I like that movie too. I love that movie, but it was it flopped. You know, like it was very much not.
That's fair.
It wasn't a great like Marvel movie, I don't think, but it was a great. It's just like
no, I showed up for a Sam Raimi movie, and that's what I got.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think that's it's an interesting sort of parallel where I think I fully agree with what you said, but I don't know. I think there's sometimes people just don't trust developers as much. and
there's always scenarios where like you trust the creatives, you're just like do whatever you want, and you like watch the creatives make these insane decisions of like trying to be new or different. You know, everybody needs to be reined in a little bit, else you end up with The Room.
That's pretty awesome.
Okay.
You haven't even seen The Room.
Yeah, but
I have.
Have you not seen The Room?
You've seen The Room?
Oh yeah.
Shit.
That movie's great.
There was a certain point where it started to put me asleep, but I did wake up and finish it.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, yeah, but like that kind of movie, I feel like is just like the entire team is just like, oh fuck it, we'll just let him do what he wants.
Basically,
and it's looking very unique.
He was like stupid rich, right? Isn't that how he got everything to happen in the first place? It's just he was pumping money into everything.
But he wasn't really like I don't really know much about him outside of that movie, so
that's fair. Me neither.
I don't think he's like actually is he a good director? Like has he done anything?
No, I don't think he's done
I
other
doubt
things. I think he's almost become
so
self-aware. That's
just a random guy that wanted to make a movie.
Like retroactively decided that The Room was a bit because we were all laughing at it. There's a clip of him. I haven't seen this clip in a while, so I could be getting the details wrong. There's a clip of him like poolside, and he's screaming like, "Go outside and touch grass," basically, but he doesn't say that. And he's got like this CRT computer monitor, and he slams it on the ground.
Oh my god!
It's awesome.
I need to see that.
A little bit. What are we talking about?
We can go back to we can go back to games if you want.
Well, there's a good example of this, and it has nothing to do with video games or movies. The Disney adult has entered the chat.
Oh.
Okay.
So back in like the 90s when like They call it the Disney Renaissance. So this is like The Lion King, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, all them. There was Disney had like two. I don't remember what their titles were, but they were like basically co-presidents. It was Michael Eisner and Frank Wells, I think. So Frank was like the business guy, and Eisner was like the creative guy. And Frank Wells died, and Eisner went from being one of the best presidents Disney's ever had to running the company nearly into the ground.
Holy shit.
So like creatives are important and creatives are fantastic, but you need the business guy to be like, that's a terrible idea every now and again.
Yeah.
Oh, can the Disney adult leave so the Riot Games apologists can enter the
No.
chat?
Yeah, hit me Riot Games apologist.
Well, Mark Merrill and Brandon Beck, the two co-founders of Riot,
I love them.
I fucking love them. Even though, you know, they're billionaires, so they're horrible people. But they the way that they talk about it was I've watched interviews with them so many times where one of them was a business major, but they and the other one was like fucking like a little bit good at everything. And they both bonded over video games. And the business, the guy that was in the business side was pretty much not completely out of the public eye, but he was never the guy talking on stage, unless it was serious. You know, like I've seen so many clips of them, and then it's like when some really bad news had to be given, all of a sudden Brandon Beck would just come out.
No, he's like the serious guy.
Yeah, this is the guy that can write the company apology letter.
Yeah, he's quite good at that. But Mark Merrill was always like the one that people kind of looked to, and he was always the face of the company. And I mean they've stayed successful. You know, they don't lead the company anymore. They're just the founders, and obviously they're still very much involved. But like, and maybe you could say that's where the disconnect started, because you can definitely see that shift starting with Riot, and it's scary. It's very, very scary.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's too, like when you get like these live service games, like a big difference in like communicating with your community is like how big you are. Because if you're fucking Riot, like you can communicate with your community, but it's like completely different if you're like just some random guy who made a game on Steam and there's like 50 people that play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like once you get like too big, then you start to see like no matter what, no one's gonna be happy as well.
Well, that's fair, but the people that they're making happy certainly aren't the majority. You know, like they're as they put it, all these like £300 and £500 skins that they're releasing. It's like, well, they're not for everyone. They're for the whales. They're for the specific.
Yeah, exactly.
That's gatekeeping content, though, and I don't support it.
Yeah, and
microtransactions suck in general.
They started off quite nice. You know, that they were like, okay, well, here's the £300 version, and here's the £25 version. You know, so you like so you don't have to feel like shit. You know, like you have to worry about.
I think it's
but like it's not the full extent of the content. Though,
those
right?
like big crazy skins, and then the like prestige skins and limited time stuff is like I hate all of that. And Riot is interesting because they do a really good job of putting their skins on sale.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you could be like, oh, it's only the older ones. It's like, yeah, that's kind of how sales work. It's like you're not going to put your brand new thing on sale, but.
Sure, yeah.
They're usually really good about putting their stuff on sale, which is super cool because a lot of games like just don't have cosmetic sales, and it's really lame. But like, you know, this other stuff of like limited timing the skins, unless they're seasonal and come back every year, I hate it and I think it's dumb. And these like super $1 million skins, like I kind of feel the urge to defend Elementalist Lux a little bit because it's like 7 skins in one. So it's like, okay, well, I kind of get it.
No, it's still on the brand of like stuff that you dislike, though.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not that expensive.
I don't have a problem with cosmetics.
You didn't even buy it.
And sure, but
did you?
No, it was gifted to me. But
Yeah.
Cosmetics and skins and microtransactions. I don't love it, but there's a good way to do it, and I feel like
Yeah.
Riot's kind of close, but then sometimes they miss the mark hard.
Well, I feel like microtransactions are just like hard in general because like I feel like honestly for service games, I think League of Legends is probably one of my favorites like examples just of
Yeah.
like because you see how it starts in the early days before live service really exploded. Like that's like one of the first games that ever did it. Well, not necessarily live service, but more like also like what also goes in hand with live service is also like that free to play model,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
which
and I want to
other-
complain that like you don't get a lot of skins for free. Like it's really hard to get the skins for free, especially if we're talking about skin like the specific skin that you want. And then I was gonna say that early Overwatch felt really good because I got a lot,
yeah,
most of my skins.
because you
for
got
free.
pretty much
And
everything for free.
every dollar I spent felt completely optional.
Mhm.
I mean, loot boxes aren't great, but like the system kind of worked because you got one pretty often. And with League, that's not the case. But also, I paid $40 for Overwatch, and League is free, so I guess
Yeah.
you have that.
Yeah,
I mean-
it's like well, okay, hold on. Well, like specifically, like the example of like how Overwatch 1 handled microtransactions is like pretty much the other side of what like modern Riot is, of like these skins are like $20, $30, $200, because back then they like you know you can get these little boxes for free if you just grind, which is like the best model for the player, which is very important. But then that's like one of the biggest painstakes of like why the game died is because it had zero revenue after you bought the game. So like after like the hype of it,
But
especially, it just kind of slowly died.
So that's kind of where Splatoon comes in and says, "Okay, now you make a sequel," and they did, but like they didn't though.
Oh yeah, Overwatch.
If they
sequel
made
sucks.
another Overwatch and it had like a single player campaign and it came out again for $40, it would last another, however long it lasted.
Sure, but I feel like specifically like companies like Riot and Blizzard don't want to make like these like the thing about Splatoon that's slightly different is that it's like it's similar to like how classic like Nintendo games work, where you make a game, all right, and then like a year later you make a new game, right? That's like not the live service model.
Yeah.
But like Splatoon is like a hybrid where like it's live service model, but then they just make a new game, and it's still like what's the word?
So
I feel like
I think the reason it isn't for me is because if there was single player content in Overwatch, I think I would play that almost exclusively because that's how I play Splatoon.
sure.
Is I'll buy the new game, play the story mode, and then like touch the multiplayer and be like, "What's new? What's the new maps look like?" And then not play it anymore. So I feel like I'm not the only one that is that way, and I know I'm not because I speak with Splatoon fans every now and again, and that's a lot of them are like, "Yeah, I just like the characters and the story." And I feel like Overwatch could do the same thing of like, I love Diva. What's Diva's story? I'm going to play the story mode to learn about Diva and then never touch the game again. Or play it a little bit. Maybe I'll get into it because I played the story mode.
There's just
Yeah.
I think
Sorry, Dan.
I think there's just multiple ways to do longevity, and
Yeah.
there's a certain level of approval you'll get from a lot of different folks. But I've tripped this in your ear like a million times, Miles, so I'm gonna repeat it one more time, which is I love when Riot they had a round table when they were designing their first skin for the game, and it was Frostfire Annie, and they say that like, okay, so this will be a skin for Annie, and basically all your abilities will do less damage, but they slow, and we'll sell that. That'll be
Oh,
that'll be
shit.
£10
That's
or
wild.
whatever. And pretty much everyone at the table was like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, we'll sell that. And one person at the table said, I forget what he goes. He says, I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't feel right. So they restarted. And their sentiment was just that we won't make it possible to sell a way to be stronger than someone else, which is
Yeah, like a
completely
game
insane.
influence.
2009. This was 2009. This conversation happened. Completely insane. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
And so the issue becomes, and you can read this as an outsider, like as not, you could tell, when you play a game and that's not happening, you can tell, because so many dev studios and game studios today would have that meeting and say to that one guy, "You're fired."
No, exactly.
That
That's
would have
big reason
happened
too.
so many times over. And when that is the case, and when that is the environment that the devs are in, you can tell.
mhm,
You could tell, like,
Yeah,
oh,
when they-
okay, the creatives didn't have a voice here.
mhm.
There was
Yeah,
there
when the
wasn't
big
enough passion
executives-
behind this.
Yeah, like when executives think they're just way better than anyone. That's why like especially when you have those companies that have like that are focused on money, and like one person, even like they don't even have to know what you do. They could like fire the one guy who keeps like everything together and they wouldn't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And they just like fire your ass immediately.
Jeff Kaplan.
Okay, that's a whole nother topic actually. I think
Well, yeah, I get it. The fucking esports pro Overwatch players hate him, but you know what? He made a really
No,
good video game.
yeah. So like the biggest split that happened during the Overwatch 2 quote unquote development is that Jeff Kaplan wanted to make the WoW version of Overwatch. And then but like then they're also running Overwatch League at the time. So then you had like the professional side being like, what's happening, guys? We need something new going on. Which like I feel like both are very valid, and I think both are very important, because like you can't just like start a league and then like drop off the face of the earth. You know what I mean?
Right. So the multiplayer needed to have updates, but the team should
Mhm.
have been split, or a new team should have been
Yeah.
built.
No, exactly. Like I feel
So-
like they didn't need to. What they did is they did like in 2019 they just like stopped updating the game after I believe it was the update where they like released Echo, I think, and then they added like a couple more updates just to adjust them, and then they just stopped updating the game for like 2
Well,
weeks.
yeah. So at the time, I was like, that's fine, because they're probably making a sequel, and that's
yeah.
like Splatoon stops getting updates like 2 or 3 years before the next one comes out, and that's expected
Mhm.
because they're working on the next one. What happened is that they announced it, and then 3 years later, there was still no sequel.
yeah.
Even though they just put a 2 in the logo.
Yeah, so like I feel like the biggest thing too, and I think this is quite obvious if you've ever like looked into it, is that like there's just a huge split between what Jeff Kaplan wanted and what I don't even know who it was that like wanted the more PvP side. I want to just say like it's probably Aaron Keller, who's like the newest, is like the new Jeff Kaplan. I don't know if it was him, but like that's like what he's doing. He's the new Jeff Kaplan, so like it's his side now.
Mhm.
Like there's just like huge split between them, and I imagine, especially during all like the Blizzard controversy, that like they're just like infighting the entire time that they're
I'm
trying
sure.
to develop the game. And then at one point Jeff Kaplan was like, fuck it, I don't like. I imagine also it was what the fuck's his name, that one executive who's like an asshole that like just breathed down your neck when he got kicked out. That like made it a lot better because he wasn't controlling everything. But during the development of Overwatch 2, he was controlling everything and probably made like everyone's life hell. And then that's probably why Jeff Kaplan left. It's because he didn't like what was happening.
I think that the split becomes what you want out of Overwatch.
Exactly.
Everything Jeff was doing, from what I can tell, that's the game I wanted to play. And that's clearly not the game that ended up
Mhm.
being made. And that's why I don't care.
I think, honestly, thinking about it now, I feel like it's more of a split of like Jeff Kaplan's like WoW version of the game versus the executives wanting to make as much money as possible by continuing. Like I think because like there's a world where you can develop the PvE while also developing the PvP, but
Mhm.
then you hit that wall of the team or like the game making money, and then at that point the executives are like, wait, hold on, now we can just like you gotta do something. So
Well,
they're
yeah,
just like
so-
super pressured.
The problem became, we're going to make Overwatch 2 free. And it's like, okay, well then how does the PvE make us money? And it just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So then they just
Well,
didn't.
their explanation. Well, no, I don't even think that what I mean by that specifically. I meant just like in the short term, because Overwatch has always had like a long lifetime of short term gains and like zero long term gains. Um, so like when when I assume when they were trying to tell the executives that like, oh hey, we had to make this PvE game for like 3, 5, 8 years or whatever they wanted, and then the executives were like, no, we need to make money now. So that just became a huge thing, I think.
Well, I know like supporting that view was when Arcane was getting talked about. Did I tell you how long Arcane was developed for?
It was like
It was
7 years, right?
insane, right?
It was 7 years because they made the pilot with Fortiche, and then they were like, okay, this is great. We funded you for 1 episode. We can't fund you for the 9 you want. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just not happening. And then for the next 6 years, Riot got, hey, you keep making these awesome animations. Why aren't you making like a movie or a TV show or anything? And then like they go back to Riot Preco and they're just like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
like maybe you were right the entire time. And
Well,
Exactly.
everybody's been saying the same stuff about Overwatch, but Overwatch doesn't seem to value the gold mine they're sitting on of character
Mhm.
design. People
I-
love
Yeah, exactly.
Overwatch characters, and they just, and I'm sorry, but like playing your shooter is not enough to enjoy these characters to their fullest, because these are some very
100%.
creative and interesting characters that I want to learn more about, and I'm not going to do that because I'm capping point A while D.Va goes nerf this. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's cute after I've seen your movie, you know.
Oh yeah,
But
exactly.
right now it's
traumatized.
frustrating.
He said traumatized
Yeah.
by Diva Bomb.
I know. I just got traumatized by that and for this gif. I'm not gonna lie.
But the well, yeah, I mean, I actually think this is how this is how your view on League of Legends as a whole, Miles, is probably like this Arcane TV show is the appetizer for this MMORPG that I'm very excited to
Exactly.
play.
It really, it absolutely is 100%. But the way I see it is like, but the way I see it right now is that the main course is Arcane. And then when I want a little bit more, when I want that dessert, I'm going to go play a little bit of League. I want to hear Jinx's voice lines. You know, I want to see her shoot a
Exactly.
rocket across the map. So it's like, what it is advertising. And I don't like to word it
Exactly.
that way, but it is advertising. So like when Overwatch comes out with its TV show that it's never going to do, but in this theoretical
Oh,
of Overwatch comes out with this TV show that's amazing, it has to be good. It has to be good. Because if it's not good, then we're all going to give up.
that's garbage. Yeah.
But like
I
genuinely,
think-
genuinely, I haven't played Overwatch since Overwatch 2 came out. If an Overwatch TV show came out and it was good, I'd probably install Overwatch.
Oh, totally. I feel like too. It's like these are all things that like I know no one neither of you do, but like I listen to a ton of like Overwatch podcasts to like just keep up because I barely play the game nowadays too. But I just like keeping up with the community and what's like going on. And this is literally what they talked about. It's like they need to have like a really good like because Overwatch has like dipped in like popularity, of course, just because it's like died, and now they're trying to pick up the scraps of like a zombie. And like for the game to really come back, like free to play was a big hit just because it got an influx of players. But in order for them to stay and to like have that hit where like in the early days of Overwatch, you fell in love with like the dragon animation, like the Hanzo Genji one.
I'll tell you
Like
exactly
you fell in
what it
love with
was.
like
I can tell you exactly why I played Overwatch.
yeah.
D.Va.
Really?
And not
Yeah.
because not because degeneracy, but like
Uh-huh.
holy shit, this FPS character is in a mech that flies around. That's awesome. That was
Well,
my
sure,
whole
yeah, it
thought
adds so
process.
much
I was like, fuck
personality.
it, I'm playing this game.
That's awesome. But like you just get this extent of like you see into like their personality and like you see like how cool Genji is or how like calm Hanzo is. Like you just see like you when you're playing them, like you're just like, oh, I'm this cool character, and like you fall in love with like more of their lore and stuff like that. Like when Overwatch dropped, that was exactly what they did. They just like posted a bunch of that shit for like the first like year or two, I think, and then all of that dropped off a cliff because I feel like, and I think this is just mostly about like not even like an Overwatch specific issue. This is an issue of like executives looking at the art department and be like, we can cut that. I
Well,
think
because
that's
they'll look at it and
that's a
be like, "Oh,
grander
that's
issue.
unnecessary." But
Yeah.
those extra bits are what I came here for. You know, like seeing
Mhm.
all the animations from the first person perspective. Think about how much animation Overwatch has in the first person movement of like, you know, climbing a wall as Genji. or
Yes,
Hanzo, or
exactly.
like other games don't do that, and that's what's so cool. Like Valorant doesn't do that. You know, like obviously there's what's necessary to get the abilities out there, right? So like Jet has her throwing the smoke bombs, the smokes or whatever. She has smokes, right? Did I make
Yeah,
that up?
she does. She does.
Yeah, she's got these little
Right, like
smoke balls, yeah.
what's necessary is there, but like in Overwatch, there's like personality to the animations, even in the first person perspective, which is not something that other games do very well. And it just makes you love the characters more and more and more. And so you've created this environment where everybody adores your world and your characters, and they can't do anything with that love. You know what I mean? Like there's other than playing Overwatch, there's no way to enjoy Overwatch characters, and that's a problem.
Well,
Like I just think about like I play like I see like Honor or some shit. Like I see like gameplay and be like, oh fuck, I love doing these cool things. That's just me, you know. Like also the character side of it, where like you see like this cool character like Zenyatta is one of like I think one of the most popular characters for like wanting more lore, because he seems like such a cool character as like this like Omnic from like the whatever Omnic age that like happened, and you see like his side of it, and also being like a transient being with like zero lore. So people really want that.
Yeah.
And like if I saw like a movie or like a episode or something like that, that'd make me want to play him like fucking all day.
I'm gonna defend Riot again. Valorant like does have personality in them. I maybe not for all the characters, but like okay, so like Sky, you know, the Australian fucking ginger woman.
I know what you're talking about.
When she you have to put an input to explode your flash, and whenever you do your flash, she like spreads all 5 of her fingers out like she's like mimicking the flash as she does it. And I don't know, they say like voice lines, like the characters actually like have like little beings, like Gecko, who like has little creatures. He loves them. Whenever he pulls them out, he like fucking tickles them or whatever the fuck. Like, I think there's personality there, but when it's two players interacting, when it's two like characters actually interacting in the game, they don't put any personality into that because they want to be like Counter-Strike. So
exactly, and I feel like I don't think we're saying that Valorant doesn't have it at all, because I agree. I think it does have it, like in
I think
voice
it's
lines
lately.
Sure.
I think the base roster's the most boring base roster I've ever seen.
But I think the game also is going for that idea where like you're kind of mixing like the flair that like Overwatch has, you know what I mean, with the more mechanical side of CS:GO, which is a lot more rigid. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think when mechanics,
not even just mechanics, I just mean like in like how the game works.
No, right, but I feel like if you're like, well, we can't have personality because that ruins this or that, and I'm like, well, then your game is not gonna appeal to me.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean it's not gonna appeal to everybody, but you are limiting your audience.
Yeah, because like CS:GO is like one of the probably top. It's like one of the top games on Steam. I don't know about like worldwide, but like
I think Riot has a whole like cultivated a sort of serious, or like people that really want to have that competitive sort of play style. So this is what Riot kind of wants to.
Yeah, so that's why kind of from the start I was like, I'm not gonna like this.
Yeah, well, that's just preference, you know. That's different for everyone.
But I think the pool of esports gamers is not as big as developers seem to think it is, and I think we should be targeting a wider audience.
Yeah, I think something interesting that I think about is that I feel like the esports side of it is probably a lot bigger than you think, because like you don't have to be challenger to enjoy esports. You know what I mean?
This is another conversation that I had with Danny recently. Is like, God, everybody is so sweaty lately.
Yeah.
Is like everybody wants to go pro, and I'm like, what happened to just like playing a game?
I'm over here playing Mario.
Well,
Well-
sure, that's part of it, but like, you know, I was in high school playing Halo Reach, and we weren't trying to go pro. We were playing the game and laughing and being funny, and like, you know, my teammate would get in my Warthog, and I'd be like, all right, watch this, and I'd drive into the ocean because I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I guess I kind of miss some of that from modern multiplayer games. It's like everything is about like playing right or you get reported, and I'm like, this is lame.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I think
You know,
well, that
I that's
in
what
specific is
early
very stupid.
Overwatch had a bunch of that. You know, of like, all right,
Just
everybody
silly.
pick Winston. You know,
oh my god, bro. On a side note, it's like Overwatch Classic came back like for like a week or 3, I think now.
I think it's 3. Yeah,
And,
they ended
Yeah,
it.
3 weeks, but it came out like a week ago. Oh my god, that's exactly what we fucking did. I picked Winston, and then like I start like unchecking and checking it to like flash it, you know, and then like 4
yes,
people immediately pick
exactly.
it.
Mhm.
And
Oh
then we
my
just
God.
like we ran into, and then like immediately like the enemy team switched to like multiple hogs, like because they understand how to play the game now. But
Mhm.
like it was funny. It's still funny.
It's just awesome. I just like there's playing a serious game, and then there's like, oh, this guy wants us all to play Zenyatta. Let's do it.
Mhm.
It's
You
so
know?
good.
Like I feel like mixing those funny games in is what keeps me playing. Because if I try and play my best for like 4 games in a row, I'm gonna be angry by the end of it because
Mhm.
I've tried too hard and now I've frustrated myself.
Sure.
I'm trying to think what
I
my
think it's
comparison is, you know, because I mean, I never played
What do you
any
mean?
I never played Halo. Played a lot of Call of Duty when I was
Oh yeah, you're
PlayStation.
like 12, right?
No, I had fucking PlayStation. That's why I didn't play Halo.
Well, yeah. So, but like Call of Duty, I've played a bit of too, but I didn't play nearly as much because it doesn't have as much room for that, you know, have fun mentality.
Yeah, it's in that era of like realistic characters that like are like gritty, so it's like not like
Like I played a lot
The
of Black
vibes.
Ops 1, but like unless
Not
you're
the
playing
vibe, you know?
zombies, you don't there's not too much room for silly. I need silly. I'm a
Exactly.
silly goose. I need my silly.
I'm
guess I
such a
got-
silly little guy.
I'm trying to think where I got my silly from, because like it's probably Gary's mod. You know,
That's
like,
fair. That game is just silly
True.
incarnate.
So
like-
true.
Like I played TTT and I fucking role played and
Oh my god.
Yeah.
different shit.
That is
but-
exactly what it is too.
Oh, I
that,
remember
that,
Prop
that
Hunt.
game is just all the fun game modes I used to play in Halo, but like as its own video game.
So, I mean, I suppose I relate to it there, but I don't even know what Call of Duty is. It's all sort of like so long ago. I mean, I guess zombies.
You were like 8.
zombies. I probably played stupid. You know, I never.
I'm always a big fan of PvE modes though,
Yeah, no, I agree.
like zombies.
I probably never like, what's it called? Wasn't getting very high rounds, but I definitely had a lot of fun. Like, everyone was talking about the meta guns in my friend group
Mhm.
for like zombies, and then I ran around with like pack a punch shotguns, which were not. Now they actually are like in modern zombie games. They are like the meta ones for Call of Duty, but like back then it wasn't what we were supposed to run. But they just felt nice. Like pack
Yeah.
punching shotguns was so fucking.
That is an
clean.
interesting thing of like what happened to the silly?
Yeah, that's kind of what my point has always been.
Among
is
Us.
Where's the silly?
Among
You know,
Us.
if your
Well, I
game
feel like
doesn't have
maybe-
any silly at all, then I feel like you lose everyone in
Yeah.
your audience that doesn't just want to get better. Because some people don't want to get better, and I feel like that's a valid play
True.
style. It's like I don't want to be a
I
really
agree.
good Overwatch player. I just want to play sometimes after work and then go to bed.
Fucking casual. I agree. So
In defense of the casual gamer, you know, where
Bro,
my
it's so
Mario Party players at?
You got ARAM. We offer you ARAM. You want that?
I
Yeah, like,
hate
there
ARAM.
are-
I hate ARAM.
Well, what do
like
you
like
want?
in these
ARAM,
these
ARAM
games-
is when you play League and you're like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know what's happening.
No, I
ARAM is
hate
that
ARAM too.
cranked up to 100.
You don't get it.
I,
Take straw from cigarette. You'll never get it.
Dude, no one understands me.
that's so fucked.
I'm alone playing League of Legends. No one is like me. I'm unique in that sort of way. It's fucked
I'm
up.
not like other girls.
Anyone want to play Pokemon?
Yeah, when they make a new one, I hope they make a new one like
When they make a good one, let's talk about.
I hope they
That's
make a
never
Pokemon
happening.
game and then like they spend 1 year developing the sequel. Oh, that'd be so sick. Then I could just
Oh,
keep
it'd
playing
be
them.
so awesome if they came out
I would-
yearly and they were always like unplayable messes.
No, I want them to stop giving me Pokemon, please.
Oh,
I
you
do
hate
need them to-
Pokemon. So that means you hate
Yeah,
Pokemon.
yeah.
Let's talk about that.
You know, a
What?
Pokemon game didn't come out this year. We should like freak out. We should like sue.
Did it not?
I
No.
I think it was
so.
supposed to.
The trading card game.
I think ZA was supposed to.
Trading card game
ZA
got delayed because
does
of
ZA
leaks.
have- Did it?
What?
Okay.
Yeah, it did.
We haven't even seen gameplay yet.
I don't know.
Oh,
yeah, I
right.
think it
They
was
said
supposed to come out
those
this month.
those big leaks said they'd have like the source code of a playable build, which
Yep.
is crazy.
Yes. Yeah, they did.
Anyways, to go back to what we were talking about, fucking silly games. I feel like, what was I gonna say? Like, I feel like these games, like if you go into like Call of Duty and you like play silly, like that's good. But I feel like the more modern gaming scene is like you pick a serious game or you pick a silly game. That's kind of the vibe.
but I hate that.
No, I agree. I mean, like, there's still games that have silly, like Overwatch. If you look at it, it's a silly game. There's like fucking robot ninjas and like grandmas running around
Right.
with a monkey. Like inherently, that game is very silly, even if you try to go really hardcore.
Yeah, but I mean, silly in aesthetics is one thing, but it's not silly in gameplay anymore.
Mm,
Not to the
think it's
extent that
just-
it once was.
I feel like it can be. It's just like where you have to like look for it, or you have to kind of like constrain yourself, you know. Like you can like try to. This is like a stream that people do, is like quote unquote try to get to X rank playing Winston without a HUD. You know what I mean?
Right. So,
Stuff like
but herein lies the whole like if you play like shit, you get reported problem.
Yeah, but those people that do that are garbage human beings.
Well, that's what I mean. It's just like the silly is only fun if everybody's enjoying it. If you're just ruining people's games, that's not fun.
That's true. It's like, it's hard because, like,
It's
when
not
you
easy.
split-
It's not an easy problem to solve.
Yeah. Well, like when you try to split your player base to like if we go back to like Halo, like Reach or whatever, and you play online, like you play what people do are really silly, but you also play in lobbies where people are like shitting on you every game. You know, they
Yeah.
still see. I think those players still existed back then.
Sure.
We were just 12.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. So there's back to Splatoon because squids are all that
Okay.
matter to me in life.
What?
There's for how do I put this? For Splatfest, you pick a team and then you fight for that team. If a team has a more players on it than the others, sometimes you can get queued up against your own team. And at that point, the match doesn't matter for like the statistics or anything. It still matters for like your level and stuff, but like as far as the Splatfest statistics go, it doesn't matter. You'll often find that if you're queued against your own team, everyone will just fuck around and be goofy until the timer's over because the score doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like, and that used to happen. I don't know if it does anymore, but I used to come across it a lot in the base game too, of just like, hey, we're all in this new game together and we're just being silly in the middle of a match because fuck it, who cares?
Mhm.
And so
Well-
it's this like, you know what it is? I think it's the shift in a lot of games that quick play is no longer the casual game mode. It's become practice for ranked, and I hate that. I was like, I want to play
Yeah.
the casual game mode, and if you want to take this seriously, go over to ranked.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel like that is a lot of games, and that's a big conversation in Overwatch too. Is like, I remember a long time ago when I forget what it was, but like what the question was, but it was more about like what the developers saw the vision for quick play was. Is that should it be like a more casual mode or like a game mode to practice for ranked? And I think most people, like the community, just assumes it's just like a practice for ranked, but like the developers always thought of it as just a casual mode.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, but then they removed things like picking the same champion for
Mhm.
your entire team, and so they pivoted.
Yeah, there
Which
used to
is-
be a
and-
point where ranked had like that, like there's like 2-2 luck or whatever, but then like the casual mode, you could do whatever the fuck you wanted.
Right, but if
It was-
your casual mode isn't like the one that's right there, your casual players are not going to find it. Like you can't hide it in the
Yeah.
menu.
Well-
Because you got to remember that your casual players don't really care about the health of your game. So you have to guide them
Yeah.
to where you want them to be for the fun.
You want Billy, who's like never picked up a controller in his life, that's like coming home from work and just like plays the game for like an hour and goes.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
gonna click on the big button that says play, and you have to make sure that that's the game mode that he's gonna have fun playing.
Yeah.
There's
Because the
there's-
actual guy who's an Overwatch fan is willing to go into the menu and find the right game mode.
There's
Mhm.
a game that everyone has just been calling the most toxic game in the world. Like which
It's
surprises
called
me.
League of Legends.
So no,
I
because
think-
that's what I was
yeah,
gonna
think
say.
it is League of
The way I
Legends.
was phrasing it was supposed to be like that, where everyone says League of Legends is most toxic, or you got like Valorant or whatever the fuck. But Dead by Daylight, right, is
Holy fuck.
very
I don't know
exclusively
anything.
held as the most toxic game that you can play, and you can't
Really?
in-game chat. You can't in-game chat in that game. It's just all
That's
post game.
crazy.
It's all post game, or it's like the actions you take to either screw people over on your team, or you teabag the killer, or whatever the fuck you're doing to like make sure like people aren't having any fun. That's where you derive fun. That's where Dead by Daylight players derive their
That's
fun.
fascinating. Because like,
And-
I've played it, but like,
Oh,
Probably like 3 years ago.
why that? Like, I'm just like, why that game?
it's and there must just be there's just I think it's the tools, but I also think it's what you guys have just been saying, which is there's no ranked in that game. There's only one queue. You only get to
Oh,
queue
yeah.
into one thing. So, how do I put this? Okay, so I deserve this, right? I want to say something, and I deserve it. I was not really winning. I wasn't really having too much fun, and I was just kind of struggling. So I was like, maybe I should actually play a killer that's like good. So then I learned how to play Nurse, was
Fuck yeah. I
so
love
she
this.
was like the third killer in the game, the fourth killer ever added to the game, and she has been the strongest killer in the game 8 years after release. She's still the strongest killer. And I won like it must have been 40 games. I fucking just
Holy
slaughtered
shit.
people. I went nuts.
Jesus.
But for the next 3 years, I could only play Nurse. Because if I played something else, I wouldn't kill anyone. I wouldn't catch anyone. I wouldn't be able to do anything. Because my MMR, because there's only one queue, you have your one queue. I can't play killer on that account because I can't
Mhm.
play for fun.
I don't know how difficult it would be. I feel like your MMR should be affected by the character you play. Like, you know, if on your profile you are clearly an Ana main and you're really good
Okay,
at
okay,
Ana,
okay.
like
Okay. So, okay, I feel like you could do that for Dead by Daylight because you or like League. No, you can, like I think you.
well, yes. So if I queue into a game and the game is like, okay, this guy has 2 minutes on Zarya and he queued in as Zarya. Like, well, I mean, obviously you can't queue in as characters in Overwatch, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm playing a game where that's possible, and I'm like, oh, you know, this guy has 2 minutes on Zarya. He's barely ever played it before, and he just queued up as Zarya. We should like not put him at his normal rank.
Well, you can't do that because, like, okay, a game like Dead by Daylight where you pick a character and queue into, sure, I can see that. But like a game like Overwatch where you like, especially it being like switching is like the biggest like point of Overwatch is that you're able to switch characters like mid game and have different strategies.
Yeah.
Like that becomes like even in League of Legends you couldn't do this because you have your rank right. You queue into a game and it's like, all right, what champion am I picking? Like at that point, like it's like a flat MMR and I've heard like Overwatch developers talk about this before too, right? Where like you can't really like MMR doesn't really matter because you can't quantify someone's skill like that well.
Mm.
Like
Right.
even
But I think you
Dave,
can say they've like handicapped themselves a little bit here. Like there's ways to look at like, you know, maybe we should put them in a lower game, maybe even just one, and maybe even just a little bit, just to be like, you know, Let's see how they
you
do before we put them back in with the wolves that they were just with.
Well, you can do that with like they do that with like MMR in general. Like they'll like throw you into like whatever like because there's a quick play MMR. This is for Overwatch specifically. So like
Yeah.
they'll throw you at whatever your quick play MMR is, and then be like, okay, you did this game well. Let's throw you to wolves a little bit. Oh, you got Ian. All right, let's go back, and you go back and forth until you get to a point where you're stable.
Yeah, I think preemptively reining it back in before they get into a match and get bodied is probably a good way of keeping your players from getting frustrated, which is important.
No, but this is for like the new ranked experience though. That specific scenario is for the new ranked experience where like you get thrown in, and if you lose, okay, they're like, okay, we bring you down a bit. And like if you win, they're like, all right, we bring you up a little bit. Like they don't just throw you into like a diamond game as like a new player in Overwatch, you know?
No, I know, but
Like, you
Danny's
get
talking
thrown
about
into
like I mean, I guess this doesn't work for Overwatch, but I only know Overwatch characters. But Danny's talking about like, you know, crushing it as one character and then trying to play something else and getting
Well,
bodied.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's so. My example is that okay? Let's say if I got to GM on playing only Ana, right? And I have literally zero experience playing Brig. If I play on Brig, I'm trolling. If I immediately pick that character, and so that's what Danny's saying is that they're really good at this one character and they've like mastered the mechanics for this one character in like these circumstances, but like the moment you pick another character who's completely different in play style and like what you're trying to do, you just fucking fold like a table, you know?
Yeah, well, I think my point is kind of like, let's try our best to avoid. All right, you're picking a new character. You have to get bodied 4 separate times before you're at the rank where you should be, and then you can start to improve. Like we're trying to avoid that frustration of doing that.
Well, it's like kind of impossible, especially if you're doing it like in Overwatch specifically. Like there's role based matchmaking. So like in support, I can be GM, in DPS I can be Diamond. You know,
Yeah, right. So
part
for
like,
Overwatch, that's probably the best that you can do. But for Dead by Daylight, like it could probably be similar. Of like, I don't know if this would completely ruin the game, but like, oh, I'm a GM nurse, but I'm an iron fucking.
I don't know.
You know,
Maybe
whatever.
they could do that.
That-
Like specifically Dead by Daylight could probably do that.
It's so yeah. So to give it like an example, like Nurse's gameplay is there's no character that is like the Nurse in any way, shape, or form. Like I've played that game, and I've played like pretty much every killer. There are characters that are like almost as mobile as her. There are characters that can avoid obstacles almost as good as her, but she does both perfectly. She just does both like so fucking well. So like if you get really good at Nurse, your ability, you know how like the game's based around loops. You know, like the survivor has to learn how to play around their pallets and their windows,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to loop the killer in that area as long as they can. Nurse is the only killer in the game that can completely ignore that. So if you're only good at Nurse, you will not be able to play anything else. You literally can't play anything else because by the time your MMR's up there, like you can't ignore
like-
the loops as a different killer.
Yeah, it's like different fundamentals, right? Like
Yeah,
based off of the
completely.
character design. Like you can have a character like bring it to kind of Overwatch more. It's like I can play a character like Ana who has 0 mobility, so my positioning matters a lot. But if I play a character like what the fuck, like Moira, I guess, you can just fucking press a button and you just jump away.
Like you're
Like
you're somewhere
you
else.
you completely bypass the like. Of course, there's positioning issues, but you completely bypass like the level that you need to be at
Mhm.
just based off design.
I think Dead by Daylight is just more quantifiable by like the metric that you're
Sure.
saying. I think it's more quantifiable.
I agree. I think Dead by Daylight could do what you are asking, just based off of
Mm-hmm.
just how the game locks you into your characters.
Counter
I
Strike has
think-
it too as well.
I can
like-
solve the problems with multiplayer games.
Uh huh.
Just play against bots.
Okay, well that's just boring.
Is it
The-
though? Playing
the
League
thrill-
against bots is the most fun I've ever had playing League.
Okay, League, that's kind of funny actually. But playing against
Because
like
you just go in as Mordekaiser and body everybody.
yeah, but once a real person and you like if you body them and you can feel their tears running down their cheek, isn't that better?
But it's also like, you know, oh, cool. We're playing with new people who have never touched this video game before. They're dog shit, but it's okay because I can 1v6.
Yeah, like
Kinda.
Or
Yeah.
5. Is it 5? It's 5.
Uh-huh.
I can 1v6. My teammate's my opponent.
Absolutely.
And me.
Tend to be. They tend to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know. Live service games are funny.
I like
Funny
live
isn't
service
the
games.
word I would use.
They're
Funny, haha.
interesting. I feel
Funny like when you self-deprecate humor. Like that kind of funny.
yeah, exactly. You bring up your enjoyment by causing the other party to suffer.
When you cope with your trauma by making jokes about it, that's how I feel about live service games.
Sure.
It's fucked up.
So did we have like a?
Yeah, how do we end this?
I don't know.
This is good enough. And like we started apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, we ended.
Let's start
Oh,
recording.
okay. I guess we're done.
Yeah, I can't just stop recording.